In my opinion, it's not a men's rights issue.
No.
It's a human issue because not only men are victims of paternity fraud, the children themselves also have a right to know who their real father is, their biological father. And then, of course, I want to ask you because you told me earlier that a lot of the people who contact you are actually the women who are
Hmm.
the new partners of men who have been
Yes.
victimized by their previous female partners.
Yes.
So it affects
Yes.
men, women, and children.
Correct. Correct. In fact, I would say there's a reason that I am on the advisory board for the Women Against Paternity Fraud, which is a 501c3 tax exempt organization with offices in California and Washington, D.C., is because it is approximately 80 to 90% women who contact me trying to help a man or boy in her life that she loves or cares about. And typically, this guy is either her son, her boyfriend, her husband, her fiance, her grandson, nephew, and in some cases, just a very good friend who she knows he doesn't understand the legal scope and how the legal arena works, and he needs help.
Right. So this is an issue that it touches on everybody. It's not simply the fathers in question who are affected, but it's everybody around them too. And for that reason, you're very passionate about the issue, and you think that we should all give it more attention and more concern.
That absolutely. In fact, this is, I dare say, after coming across a press release from a woman who was the president of a child support enforcement agency in the United States, she said the following. She said that it was unfair to make a woman put her husband's name on the child's birth certificate when her boyfriend is the father. She said it was unfair to put the husband's name on there. And she was recommending that we do DNA testing up front. So I took her idea, which was really only being circulated among some state media, and I put out a national press release on it. Here is a proactive solution. Within the child's first week of birth, when the two parties are most likely to be present, is do the DNA testing at or near birth. Because if you do it after the baby's been delivered, there's minimal, all practically no risk to the baby. Now you can look. There are prenatal DNA paternity tests, but many of those options carry some risk to the baby. Okay, and there's a greater expense to do it that way. I know this. I've been a DNA services marketer for more than a decade because I ended up doing a business relationship with the lab that did my first test. So for a proactive solution, just do the DNA test in the first week of the child's birth, and you'll get two benefits immediately. Number one, you will identify the biological mother and father so that the child's birth documents will be accurate and verified. Number
Right.
two, you would ensure that that periodic problem that happens where mothers leave the hospital with the wrong baby. You've heard of baby swapping. Well, when baby swapping happens, those situations get tremendous pressure to get corrected because biology matters when a woman leaves the hospital with the wrong baby. So biology matters when it comes to women, but we're not so willing to embrace a truthful approach to ensure that the child has the correct father and have the correct access to the child's father's medical history and have access to their paternal family, their paternal lineage, their paternal history, and to be actively and lovingly supported by their biological father. It's kind of hard to argue against that when it's presented like that.
Right. And it's basically transparency and honesty at the core. What you're advocating for is that every
Yes,
person has the right to know whether someone is their child or not, and every child has the right to know whether someone else is their parent or not. Like these are pretty
yes.
basic common sense things. I don't think that's controversial. And
But
as you
I'm
pointed
told
out, the
I'm
genetic
controversial.
testing Well, to some people, you may be controversial. Not in my opinion, but I think it should be a simple matter. In Canada and I believe the United States too, all newborn babies are eligible for genetic testing right after birth, and this is to treat for a variety of treatable genetic disorders, so that the doctors can know, oh, your child has this, we might have to give it some
Okay.
medication or treatment. You could just add a DNA test onto that series of tests for a minimal cost, and then,
Oh
as you
yes.
said, that would provide transparency and information that assures paternity right from birth, and then there's no ambiguity later on, and then
No surprises.
it avoids further conflict and further legal battles.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that would be the common sense approach. And I'm, I've caught a lot of flack about it, and people have attempted to shame me, try to insult me, try to guilt trip me, and said that I am weaponizing DNA tests against women. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm saying, listen, if there are multiple paternity candidates, you have to have a very frank conversation with the child's mother, and to ensure there are no legal battles going forward, then this is something that can be done. Listen, I've done DNA testing on newborns personally, newborns. It can be done. I had one gentleman contact me because I've done so much media. As of right now, I've done over 200 television, radio shows, featured in Time Magazine. I've been on Dr. Phil's show with one of my clients, and that show has been aired more than 7 times. It's called Parent Trap. Your audience can look it up and they can find it online. But my premise is this: you could avoid all of the finances and expenses related to a legal battle later trying to locate the biological father if you move the testing closer up toward the birth. Now, I'm not saying you'll get 100% of the biological fathers identified. You will get more of them than you do now, because as it stands now, um, there's almost an attempt to shame men and teen boys for not being willing to just take the mother's word alone and sign a document that obligates him for 18 to 21 years or lifetime payments. And why I put emphasis on payments? Because when mothers go to court seeking child maintenance and child support, what is she seeking to get from the court? The legal authority to get enforceable collections for money, regardless of the currency, whether it is a Canadian dollar or euro or US dollar, whatever it is. That is typically the purpose that she seeks that court's power and authority, and forcibly take those funds if needed. I don't have a problem with that, Warren, as long as that you identified the right guy. We should be starting with, well, ma'am, if you're giving us verbal assurances, well, that's okay for starting the list, but we're also going to do genetic verification to ensure that the facts that are alleged and the facts that are accused are the facts proven. And we have the technology, we have the means. That genetic testing has been available now for more than 2 decades. And if we did more DNA testing at birth, Warren, using the principles of the economies of scale, we could actually drive the cost of DNA testing down further to where it could just be a line item on the hospital bill, to where I believe we could get insurers to cover it. Because if the husband's insurance has clauses and stipulations that says we're only agreeing to cover the children that the husband has formally legally adopted and the children that are biologically his, and any others that are not his by biology and not his by formal adoption, those will be excluded. Now, if that, and I'll make an allowance for surrogacy, assisted pregnancy, and in vitro fertilization. I'll make allowance for that. Those are very easy to stipulate. But that would eliminate room for men and boys getting tagged for pregnancy by deceit, material omission, legal fraud, which means knowingly and willingly concealing material facts. Not many married women over the past 2 decades, I have only found two that were willing to admit to their husbands that they had been with multiple partners. That is a rarity. It is not the rule. So because we can't get 100% of moms, whether she's a teen mom or she's an older adult mom, we're not going to get 100% of them to tell the truth. And sometimes she actually makes a mistake, but mistakes should be corrected.